Hello and welcome back to Interjections Post-Derby Edition. I'm your host, Andrew. Mikko and Irfan with me. Jay, too embarrassed about Milan's performance yesterday to show up. Irfan, what's up?
Not much, not much. Exciting derby for sure. Definitely a little upset that we ended up dropping 2 points, but we'll talk about it. It was an interesting match.
Mikko, I'm sure you're as calm as ever.
Look, I was dead inside yesterday, but then these two wingbacks from Rome saved me. So little more calm now.
Well, I always said Zalewski was going to be the signing that changes the trajectory of our season.
Yeah, I was just gonna say Forza Roma.
Well, let's get into it because this for the third time this season we had to talk about the Milan Derby disappointment where we walk away without full points. And this was by far the best we've played in one of these matches. Milan had one chance all match and they took it. And for 93 minutes, it looked like that was going to be enough for them to win it. And I can't sit here and be excited about a draw given the circumstances of the match. I mean, going into this match, Milan were in shambles. They were selling their starting striker Morata after some locker room issues. They were trying to unload Tomori to Spurs, and he rejected the move. It felt like this was just setting up for us to get some good revenge. And I mean, you were playing a Milan team whose season has been extremely disappointing, and their Scudetto dreams were dead in November. So I was really hoping we could get the win yesterday, but we just can't beat this team. There are a few narratives going around right now about the performance yesterday. I want to start by dispelling the myth that this was some dominating performance by Inter. We were the better team. We were 100% the better team, and we were unlucky. When you hit 3 posts, you're inherently unlucky. But this wasn't some like playing Milan off the pitch level of domination. I think what you saw yesterday was just the different styles of the two teams, which is we look like a better football playing team because that's the style we play. We play a more aesthetically pleasing style, whereas Milan is this counter-attacking, speed, pace, stamina kind of thing. And yeah, like they're not as technically strong as us at like the nuances of the game, the passing, the crossing, and as a result, I think we just look better. But if you like go down the list of chances, and especially in the first half, I can't tell you that we thoroughly outplayed Milan. The second half, things changed. The second half, we were definitely the better team. But even then, this wasn't a performance where we played Milan off the pitch. We hit 3 posts, but 2 of them were the direct result of corner kicks. And it was a frustrating match to watch because like the 2 offside goals, they were not close. They were both offside by a country miles. And when we did have the ball, it was just stagnant. It was uncreative. And honestly, for the first 60 minutes or so, it was a little on the boring side. Like we felt out of ideas. And Milan were not great. I'm not trying to make this seem like Milan were some dominant performance either. Like I said, they really had one chance all match. But when Jay was talking about the last episode in the preview that he thought there was going to be like a cagey match because of its high pressure and both teams will be a little afraid to make a mistake, he ended up being right because there wasn't a whole lot in this for the longest time. The Milan was comfortable playing with the lead, and you saw that in the way Conceição approached the second half. His management in the second half of the match is really what led us back into this game. Milan looked decent, like by their standards, when they were able to sit back and counter us. And there was a moment early in the second half where they were pretty much routinely countering us, and it was pretty terrifying. But then Conceição just goes full like cowardice mode. And by the end of the match, he has 5 defenders and a 16-year-old striker on the pitch. And that's really when we dominated the game. Like those last 15 minutes of this match, that was all us. That was like quality after quality, high chance. And I'm glad we were able to find an equalizer because we did not deserve to lose that game. I'm not. We probably deserve to win it. On the whole, like we had better chances, but I do not think this was some dominant performance, especially when you consider like we were playing a relatively poor opponent, right? Like this isn't a great team we were playing yesterday. This is a team who's seventh on the table. This is a team we should have beaten, and I don't blame Inzaghi for dropping points again to Milan. And there's really no way of just once again I'm disappointed because when you lose points to Milan at 3 consecutive matches, you have to do some soul searching, and I can't blame Inzaghi for it. I mean, you can blame Hakan if you want for the mistake. You can blame the referee. I'm sure we're going to get into the penalty decision that was the wrong one. But when I look at like what went wrong yesterday and like why we weren't able to get the 3 points, it comes down to the quality of the players. And Milan just has player attributes we don't have, and we struggle to deal with. Like with their pace and their ability to counter is something we really struggle with. And whenever Milan begins an attack from their own half, I'm terrified because every time we never look secure defending them. Like they had multiple dangerous looking counters yesterday that thankfully either Pavar made a world class tackle on, or they just, through their own doing, ruins. Like there was not much great defending from us yesterday against their counters. So, quality of players, I'm just saying we struggle to compete with their pace. We struggle to handle the approach they take in these batches for the past 3 now. And like I said, we were the better team for most of the match. But when you play this counter-attacking football, the smash and grab style football, all you need is one chance to take it. So the moment they scored, it sort of looked like all belief was drained from our guys. But I'm proud of them for bouncing back. And to finish my earlier points, Inzaghi, I give him a lot of credit because he's in a tough situation. We've talked about this. We're down 1-0 in a match. We're trying to figure out how do we get ourselves back into this thing. And I think you guys will agree with me. After the first 10 or 15 minutes of the second half, like from 45 minutes to 60th minutes, this team looked dead. We looked listless. We looked like we were just out of ideas. And it's tough on Inzaghi when he looks down the bench and there's nothing to put in the match to like give us a spark. But he made the triple change. He put on new center backs. He put on a new right center back and a new left center back. And it was that combined with Conceição like completely taking his foot off the gas. It was the creative spark we needed to like get our foothold back on the match. So Bisek was great, Augusto played great, and it was a creative sub by Inzaghi to get the match back in our favor, and I give him a lot of credit for that. It's also a glaring indictment on how poor this team's backup strikers are, that in a match where we were desperate for a goal, Inzaghi did not put on a single striker. Instead of going to Taremi, instead of going to Arnautovic, we were substituting wingbacks, we were substituting defenders, and they were able to get us over the finish line. And I give them a lot of credit for it. But man, just it goes to show you there's a hole in the squad that needs to be addressed. So on the whole, I've got to say disappointment primarily, but it's a bit. I can speak in a bit better of a mood. I feel like Mikko, you were saying, I feel a lot better knowing that, hey, we got the point. Roma stole a point from Napoli after our match yesterday, and all in all, not too much damage done. Irfan, I know I usually try and let you wake up a little on these podcasts, but I want to start with you today because I know where Mikko and Jay are going to be out on the perspectives of this match. So you could get to break the tie early. How are you feeling about how things went yesterday?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't disagree with most of your points, but I think it's a little harsh. I mean, I feel like you're trying to do like a Jay impression a little bit over here, or trying to make up for some of his absence a little bit. Overall, I agree with you that the thesis is that it's disappointing that we dropped 2 points. There's no doubt about that. But and I'm not saying we like, we like played them off the pitch or anything like that. But I think you'd be really hard pressed to say that we weren't significantly the better team. Now, with that said, the things that I think went wrong for us specifically were to the point that you made earlier, which is that one of the things that Milan are so dangerous for is that they have a few players that if you ever leave those players 1v1, like if you don't defend them as a unit, you're basically playing with fire, right? And we don't have a ton of players like that. I mean, I think Taram this season is probably one of those players that if he's playing 1v1, you know he can probably create something. But Milan probably have close to three of those players, right? They have Leao for sure, Pulisic on a good day, and then Theo on a good day are all players that if they're playing 1v1, like you're going to be in some sort of trouble. And so it's very difficult when you're trying to defend them, and you're trying to score a goal to like really keep those players in their place and not let them get 1v1. And that's one of the things you mentioned about the tackles that Pavard made, which I think in two cases probably saved a good goal scoring chance for Milan. But I think we were significantly better. Significantly better. I think we were very unlucky. Now, I would have felt a lot better if the three posts that we hit were in the first half, because I think based on the run of play, that's probably what we deserved. But the fact that they were basically in the second half, and then in addition to that, we were denied a blatant penalty, in my opinion. That was very obvious. And the fact, and what makes me mad about that is that if it had gone to VAR and VAR had decided, hey, 50-50 play, or like, he got tripped up, but it was kind of incidental, like I'd be okay with that, right? Because that does happen. But the fact that he didn't even send it to VAR really pisses me off, because what's the point then? And then also, I think that the goal that Dumfries basically set up with that shoulder to shoulder tackle on Theo was also wrongfully denied. And again, had it gone to VAR, I would have said, okay, fine. They looked at it and it was, it was a foul. But on the pitch, it seemed like a total 50-50 shoulder to shoulder challenge. So I don't know. The ref was horrible. But again, I will say that I was expecting us to kind of come out with a statement performance, a signature performance statement win. That clearly didn't happen. There is something about this Milan team that's difficult for us to break down. There were times where we did seem like we were out of ideas. But, to be perfectly honest, I feel like if we had a fully healthy Hakan, I think we would have dominated them, and I think we would have dominated them off the pitch. The one guy that I will give credit to them, and I kind of mentioned this in the chat, whenever Benacer plays against us, he seems to always play really well. He gives us trouble from starting anything really kind of in the midfield, and that kind of becomes a little bit of our kryptonite. I think the last three matches we've lost to Milan in Serie A, of the last four matches we've lost to Milan in Serie A, three of them have featured him either as starter or playing most of the game. So there's something about him in the midfield that really prevents us from generating the momentum that we need to score goals. And he was subbed off at the halfway mark, which, again, coupled with the way the game was moving, I think helped us tremendously in the second half. But I agree. I think, we're sitting here analyzing Inter, but from Milan's perspective, their manager completely bungled this game. Like, it was the second half, the way they played. If Inzaghi had played that way, we would be crucifying him. And I'm sure Milan fans are not happy with the way that Gonçalo played the second half. So overall, again, 2 points lost, disappointing. Roma kind of saved our day. But I think we played significantly better. I'm happy with the way we played. I just wish we would have, actually capitalized and put these guys away.
Yeah, I agree that Conceição was the reason why we got a point out of this match. We can talk about the referee stuff, like the penalty. There's nothing to even talk about. Like, it should have been a penalty. Like, I don't really have any commentary to add. It should have been a penalty. I do disagree on the disallowed goal from the Dumfries shoulder. I actually think, I think 9 times out of 10 in Italy, you're not getting that call. Theo kind of beat him to the spot. So if you look at the replay where you're like watching it from the back line, you can kind of see Theo get in front of him. So I'm not surprised we didn't get that call. The penalty, it's a joke. It is what it is. But the reason I say that this wasn't quite the domination that people are making it out to be is that, like I said, of those posts we hit, it's not like those were coming from open play. We were carving up Milan routinely. Like those were coming off of corners. They were coming off of set pieces. And really, like I said, that the after Milan scored their goal until the Inzaghi triple sub, it was a completely uninspiring second half performance. And I give Inzaghi credit because his subs changed the course of this game. And those combined with Conceição just completely letting up really let us dominate the last 15 minutes or so. But on the whole, like this was not a performance I'm proud of. This was not a performance where I go, man, that could have been 4-0. Mikko, I'm sure you're going to disagree with everything I'm saying, so I'll let you chime in.
I think your, at least the initial breakdown was pretty spot on. And I also feel that the first half, it was a bit of an underwhelming, and there was this constant, at least for me, there was this constant kind of feeling that, all right, are we gonna let them counter again? Like there were a few cases, at least two, the goal obviously, but then another one when we lost the ball on our, it was probably on our right flank, and there was some pretty dangerous attack coming from that. Maybe it was the one where Pavard barely saved it. And I think there were few more instances where there could have been a dangerous counter starting. And in the second half, there was the one when Zielinski lost the ball almost the same way as Hakan in the first half when we conceded the goal. And that was a dangerous counter as well. So it got me thinking that the way we play, it kind of requires like constant focus on keeping the ball, keeping the possession. And if you lose the possession, and if you play against opponent like Milan, that's like an immediate threat, almost whenever you are, because we tend to bring a lot of players in our offensive zone, and we kind of, our system kind of relies on the possession, and that players can, like every player trusts each other that they can keep the possession, the teammate can keep the possession. And if we lose the ball, then it's like, well, not always, but especially against Milan, it felt that all hell will break loose in a situation when we lose the ball. And that's I think that the way we play, it requires so much from our players, and maybe part of the reason why we would need to improve our bench, maybe even some of the starters. I don't know. Maybe the starting 11, it's like good enough, but the bench players, so that the rotation could be better. It requires so much from the players that that these kind of things can happen. That okay, we lose the ball, we concede the goal, and then when the opponent starts to defend like Milan did yesterday, we sometimes find it hard to like truly find the goal. Luckily, we got the goal in the end, and maybe if we got the penalty, I don't remember at which minute was it, but if we got the penalty and scored from that, I'm pretty confident we would have won the match, because like you guys mentioned, Milan like dropped the ball in the second half, and it was all us especially in the last half an hour. They were almost like waiting for us to score, and we finally got it, but it was like too late. Should have been one of those posts maybe. Then we could have had time to score the winner as well. But yeah, all in all, it was very disappointing to see us not win that match. And I don't know the first half was maybe the issue that we couldn't take the lead, and instead we conceded the lead to Milan. because that allowed them to kind of play their game. Okay, I don't know, can I say what is Milan's game, because it's been a bit of a shambles this season anyway, change of coach and everything. But in a sense, I think this defending is it's quite all right. Like we saw yesterday, they defended pretty well. We didn't create that much kind of open play chances. We created some, but not like you said, we didn't like play them out of the field. We got the posts were mostly from the set pieces, or were they all from the set pieces? Anyway, they defended well, but they defended well, and then we can't just break those type of defenses like often enough, and that's why this kind of result can happen when we don't have that game breaking power, especially from the bench, as you Andrew referred to. It was quite evident when I watched the match, and I was thinking, okay, what is Inzaghi going to do with the subs? He can't bring in any attacker, because like they won't bring anything. They will like decrease our quality so much that it's just impossible to bring any of them in, and that's what happened. And our forwards, I think they were good. They were like involved. They were very hungry, but couldn't score the goal. And yeah, that is a bit of an issue, or was a bit of an issue yesterday. That I don't know. I don't know. Can I even say impact player from the bench? But like one you bring in is Frattesi in these type of matches. He can make the runs when the opponent is just defending. And yeah, he tried something, but we couldn't find balls to him yesterday. What else? Yeah, maybe those are my first thoughts about the match and the result.
Yeah, so the lack of just firepower coming off the bench was the most glaring thing yesterday for sure. And you can't put Taremi, you can't put Arnautovic into a match like this, because you'd be playing with 10 men. They don't have the technical skills required to compete at this level. And even when you were thinking about midfield substitutions, like, were you really going to trust Aslani in a game like this? I barely trusted Frattesi in a game like this. It shows you that there's just too big of a fall off between the first and second team. But once again, that's why I give a lot of credit to Inzaghi for the idea to make the change at center back, because taking off Bastoni, who was booked, and taking off, I was beside myself when he took off Pavard. But you know what? It was actually a good decision in hindsight, because Bisek offered just a little bit more going forward. He was a bit more involved in our attacking play. He's a more aerial threat off of corners. I think he had a flick on that led to one of the posts. And yeah, I mean, it worked. So I give Inzaghi credit for getting the most out of what he had yesterday. But it just speaks to the broader problem with this team and why they might struggle to win a trophy this season, which is Arnautovic and Taremi. They're giant black holes. Jay, obviously a tough match for you yesterday. How do you feel about Conceição really blowing things for Milan late?
Yeah, sorry I'm late, guys. Those were two painful points dropped, so I didn't want to show my face at first, but decided to man up and face the music. So here I am. All jokes aside, though, I think you guys are right in saying that the subs that Conceição made were quite ruinous for Milan, but at the same time, I think the quality on the bench was was a significant issue for them. When you look at the names he was bringing on, you know what I mean? Obviously, they've just sold Morata. Santiago Jimenez was apparently not ready to play at all, so having to bring on a 16-year-old Camarda, and just look at the kinds of players they brought on: Terracciano, Jimenez. These are all academy players or Milan Futuro players, so there's that to be said as well. Regarding our own approach from the first half, I thought we kind of played ourselves a little bit in the first half. We kind of had the worst of both worlds, is the way I've been describing it, and it was clear that neither team really wanted to commit to attacking too much. I think Milan wanted to hit us on the break, and I think Inzaghi demonstrated some learning from the first two derbies and really wanted to avoid getting caught on the counter and not overcommitting and leaving ourselves vulnerable at the back and leaving ourselves open on the counter. And the kind of result of this weird mix of approaches was that we, like I said, kind of came away with the worst of both worlds, where we managed to get hit on the counter despite not committing to the attack. And that first half was a real kick in the guts because we didn't create much, minus a few offside goals, which, are worth a mention, but I thought the offsides were kind of a bit significant to be really overly upset about them being disallowed. And yeah, the first half wasn't the best performance right up until Reinders scored. And the second half, I agree with Andrew, it wasn't particularly impressive until quite late in the game, when we started piling on the pressure and we hit the post a few times. Andrew's right in saying that the posts that we hit, or these chances that we did create, were usually from long balls and crosses and from scrambles. But that in itself is, I think, pretty important because we generally kind of require a degree of fluidity to our attack. We require a degree of momentum to be dangerous, and so to kind of be so threatening from a route one approach of just crossing into the box and beating Milan to the second ball and this kind of thing, I thought that was actually quite refreshing to see. It's the kind of directness and desperation in attack that I feel like we've been lacking a little bit this season. We're a bit too pretty in how we attacked in previous games, and just having a sense of reassurance that there's a good chance we can score here despite playing a kind of route one, throwing the kitchen sink kind of approach was pretty good, actually. To that end, what can I say about the goal? It was wholly deserved. Zaluski, I thought, had a really, really solid derby. He looked composed. He looked like his head was screwed on properly. He looked busy. He looked like he had a job to do. He looked like he knew what his job was and that he had a limited amount of time to do it, and he just got straight to work, kind of head down, but not in like a tunnel vision Buchanan kind of way, but head down, driving forward, linking up with teammates, making himself available on the flank, not afraid to put in the ball. I think he attempted crosses on both his left and right feet, if I'm not mistaken. So very, very, very good debut from him. And hopefully he'll continue to be a more than just a body to bring on when everyone else is tired, or, in like the 88th minute of a game. For me, the biggest takeaway was the panic that we caused Milan. In the last, 5, 10, 15 minutes, we've kind of really put the fear of God in them with all these close chances. And I know that the Milan fans would have been hand in heart, kind of very, very nervous and anxious, and their heart would have been thumping with the stress of kind of hanging on for dear life, And it's been a while since we've done that, and realistically, we were in that position in the earlier derbies, right? Especially the Super Cup one. There was this kind of sense of dread after we conceded the first goal. It's like, oh shit, this team's gonna bottle this somehow, aren't they? And then lo and behold, when they completed the turnaround, I was like, yeah, fuck, okay. But this time it felt the other way around. And so, although we did not, unfortunately, complete the turnaround with a win, we still managed to obviously avoid a loss, which was huge. Really important to stop the slide. But the way we did it, by hitting the post numerous times, by having a bunch of disallowed goals, and by just being the clear superior team across the balance of play and across the quality of chances made, I think that was the most important thing. Like, Milan fans and Milan, the team, the players themselves, walk away from this going, whew, breathing a sigh of relief. And that's an important kind of psychological impact to have made upon them from the derby.
Yeah, I think one of the things that kind of bothers me about this match was you could point to Hakan's individual mistake that led to the Milan goal, but outside of that, I was curious if you guys can answer the question. Like, I don't I don't see who at Milan played really well. And I guess to that effect, I don't know who played really well for us either. I think it was a lot more defensive than I thought it was going to be. I think Tomori played really well for them. But it's really hard for me to come up with a player on either side that really stood out. And I think that was kind of like I guess my point is, like, I don't really understand how Milan were able to neutralize us defensively. I can't come up with like a good explanation for why it happened. And I'm curious if you guys have one. Other than just we weren't able to attack with the same sort of abandon that we typically attack with, because we had to make sure that we weren't going to get caught on the counter 1v1 against like Leao.
Definitely the defenders. I think I went through some individual stat reports and things like this after the game, and at least on paper, all of their defenders, going from Kyle Walker through to Teo, won a number of or a high percentage of all the aerial and ground duels that they faced. You know, like, for example, Walker was like 7 out of 7 ground duels won. Tomori and Pavlovic were the same, and Teo was like 4 out of 5 ground duels won, or whatever it was. But most of them won the majority of ground duels that they faced. So when we tried to play through them, they tended to win the challenges for the most part. I think that goes kind of hand in hand with what you guys were saying about about Thuram and Lautaro not being hugely effective today. I felt Thuram wasn't able to use his pace as well as he normally does. You know, there were a number of times where he tried to take his man on and run past them, you know, kind of knock the ball past them and surge past them as he so often does. But he was just up against players who matched him for speed and intensity today, regardless of that penalty shout. You know, the fact that Pavlovic was able to keep up with him, for example, I thought that was an indicative kind of marker of the way the duels went in terms of their defense against our attackers. So for me, Milan's defense was probably their strongest performers. I mean, look, obviously Leao had the moment that led to their goal, and that's, you know, his quality, that's his danger. He can do that at any given moment if you switch off for even 1 second. Pulisic was very quiet, didn't have a great game. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me. Just their defense was solid and physical and up for it.
I thought Pavlovic had a man of the match type performance, the penalty on Thuram aside. And when you consider that he didn't get called for the penalty, it was a proper, just excellent performance. Tomori looked inspired, which was surprising. I thought he'd be a little mentally checked out after they were trying to sell him to England earlier in the week. But those two looked great. It was a little frustrating having to listen to my American commentators talk about Kyle Walker's Champions League DNA and the mature presence he was providing the Milan team. I didn't think Kyle Walker did anything exceptional yesterday. But yeah, it was definitely, I thought their center back pairing in particular was excellent all match long. And the midfield for Milan was like Irfan was saying earlier, was pretty good. Like they did a nice job, like disrupting our flow, disrupting our buildup. We had a few instances of just like sloppily giving away the ball in the midfield that I really attribute to like Milan's pressing. So Milan honestly played a pretty strong defensive game yesterday. Like I said, they marked us poorly on set pieces. They maybe didn't do great with aerial threats, but like in terms of stuff like directly on the pitch, passing, things like that, I give them a lot of credit. They played very well. But with that all being said, they had 1 goal scoring chance all match. So it kind of tells you about the tactics of the game. Mikko, can you just touch on Zalewski a bit more? I think he's really kind of the headline stealer, just given how poor Buchanan was for Inter, and then you see Zalewski come on and immediately offer more than Buchanan ever provided in his time here. I just think it's worth talking about.
Yeah, as Jay mentioned, I think he stepped in and was like immediately, well, maybe not at home, but yeah, like he understood what he needs to do there, and he understood the assignment, and I think he did what he was asked to do. I was checking these stats, and it says that he had 4 crosses, and 2 of them were like on target. Probably the second one was the assist to Debray, the chest assist, but the other one I remember was, I think it was towards Fratesi maybe. But anyway, he was like active there and was able to give those crosses. Like I remember, like Buchanan, he rarely was able to do that. Maybe more in the like year ago when he joined, but like this season when he was playing, he did nothing for us, and Zalewski was like a night and day in that regard. And I feel that as the specifics of the deal, it's the, like we discussed, what was it, a few days ago we discussed about this, that will they really extend him and then loan him to us? Well, that's what happened, and it feels that he really wanted to join Inter, and like now he's going to prove that he's worth the option, which is like, was it 6.5 million or something? So he wants to prove that he's worth that, so that we would use that option to keep him. And it was a nice first minutes at Inter shirt, and I believe he can use his left foot as well as the right foot, which is always a positive thing, because we might need to. Well, maybe not that much anymore, but lately it's been Dumfries playing a lot, and when we needed to play Darmian as well, there hasn't been like a proper sub for the right side. So maybe Zalewski could help there, but now just Pisek is back. Maybe that's not an issue anymore. But nevertheless, I liked what I saw from him, and I believe he can help us, especially in the Serie A matches throughout the season from now on.
All right. Any final thoughts that you guys want to discuss from the Milan match before we move on to summarizing the Mercato for January?
Maybe I want to add that it's kind of interesting thought to think how we discuss this match now, because I feel that a lot of it is connected to the Roma-Napoli match result, and kind of the general feeling and everything is is so much tied to the result of that match. And if Napoli had won that match, like it looked like it looked so, it was like in the injury time, like our goal. I don't know. I think the mood here would have been like a tenfold worse than now, because
If Napoli won that match, I would be here telling you the Scudetto race is over.
yeah, exactly. And but it is kind of true that now we are in a sense that if we expected that, okay, we're gonna win this match, and if we won it and then Napoli won it, it's kind of the same situation as now. So we would be in the race, and we can, if we win our next match, we would be the game in hand match, we would be on top with goal difference. So it's it's a different dynamics here because of result of another match. But yeah, it's important. It's important. All is kind of connected, because that's the title race.
I think Napoli are done, to be honest. I really don't think they're going to keep it up. I mean, I don't think you can really recover from selling Kvaratskhelia and replacing him with no one. I mean, at this stage, the quality of replacement they've been linked to has just been diminishing consistently, from Garnacho and Adeyemi to Saint-Maximin to now apparently fucking Okafor. Like, you gotta be kidding me with this shit, you know what I mean? Like,
Apparently there's an agreement
for Okafor.
Okafor loan. Yeah,
that is disgusting, to be honest with you. Like, this is the kind of thing that I'd be like absolutely livid over if I was a Napoli fan. It's the kind of absolute most banter shit possible. It's like replacing it really is like replacing Osimhen with Lukaku. But I've been saying this for months, you know, Napoli and ADL kind of, I don't want to say get away with it. kind of get away with it because the expectations of the set of fans is completely different. They were they were waiting at the airport in their thousands to welcome McTominay as a champion, whereas Inter fans would have been like, McTominay, are you for real? So there's a difference in expectations there. But yeah, still, I mean, Okafor is a bad joke, really. So I think Conte knows that, and I think it's only a matter of time before things start going badly for them. And as I've been saying all along, it's us versus Milan for the Scudetto, and unfortunately they have the head-to-head advantage now. So
All right.
Conte's definitely going to rage quit. He's going to rage quit soon because
he's not making it tier 2.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Not the way they've been treating him. In fairness, because you're right, Jay. Like those are massive downgrades at key positions. Like it's so different from their Scudetto winning side to now. It's just like wow.
But some of it's self-inflicted, right? Like going from Osimhen to Lukaku is Conte's choice. Like I understand not reinvesting any funds in the winter mercato was what Conte was most recently complaining about, but some of this is their own doing. So I'm not willing to write Napoli off yet. I'm kind of with Anthony on this one. I just have too much faith in Conte in a league title race with one match a week.
That's true. Yeah. I was thinking if Napoli do pull it off, then this is going to be Conte's masterpiece. Like when Mourinho said getting second place with that Man United at the time was, one of the greatest achievements of his career. It's like Phil Jones and who they have at the time, Fellaini and players like this, and the Europa League. In the same way, if Conte manages to win the Scudetto, I'll give him massive, massive props because I've watched the last probably 7 Napoli games, and in addition to a handful or a scattering of games from the early part of the season. And I tell you what, man, I see Anguissa, I see Lobotka, I see Politano, funny enough, to his credit, but it's kind of it's bewildering how they're managing to play so kind of above their station. I mean, they got Buongiorno back, so that'll be a big boon for them. But I keep saying this, player for player across the board, we destroy Napoli for quality, and for them to keep this pace is really down to, well, they deserve it. Obviously, they've earned it, but also just this is Conte at his best. But that rant he had about I see Napoli does not act like a big team in the transfer market. That's also content. That's also Conte.
I saw that. I think it might be like more to come in that regard. Like when they lose points next time, he might lose it completely at that point. But yeah, Napoli was a good shout. Because I almost forgot to comment about the stats from the Roma-Napoli match. The expected goals was 0.52 to Roma and 0.3 to Napoli. They lost the ball possession. They had 2 shots on target and no big chances. And I feel that it might be that, like Jay, you said, that it's not gonna be enough for them. Like they will eventually, like, they can't get the results throughout the season because the game is not good enough, and it will show in the end. But still, I feel the scheduling, it's a big bonus for Conte.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's the only thing why they are in the race, obviously, but why they probably stay in the race. But let's hope.
Speaking of schedule, we're gonna start seeing that impact from quite literally this week with 2 back-to-back games against Fiorentina in the span of like 4 days or something. Before moving on to that, I wanted to ask you guys, how did everyone feel about Zielinski in the derby? Obviously,
Zielinski.
Yeah, obviously Inzaghi made the choice to bring on Zielinski to replace Hakan as opposed to Aslani. But how do we feel Zielinski played? I thought he had a good game. I thought there was, again, a kind of quiet drive and purpose to the way he played. Like I was saying about Zalewski, he came off the bench and he just looked like he had a job and he knew what that job was and he knew how to do the job. That's the impression I got from him. Again, head down, not in like a bad tunnel vision way, but just focused, and spread the ball around decently. Didn't do anything particularly fancy, but just held his own and just went through all the boxes and just checked every box in the list of things that he had to do. I thought he played well.
Yeah, I think the way he plays as a register role, I think it's quite kind of reserved in a sense that he's not gonna do anything drastic. He's not gonna pull any magic moves there, because I feel he feels maybe a bit uncomfortable in that role. So he's gonna play it safe, and maybe that's by design, in a sense that usually when we play against teams who sit deep, we have this register, and he is running the show with another central defender, maybe two of them, at least one of them goes in the offensive zone, and yeah, I think it was decent, but also it feels that when he's playing there, we are like losing a bit of his abilities. But at the same time, we can say that at least he's pretty good with the ball, although he lost the ball like pretty bad at one point. And if that was Aslani, he would have been like murdered for making that mistake. So I think we need to be fair here and like point out these mistakes as well, like Çalhanoğlu did. It was finally it was Çalhanoğlu and Zielinski, other registers who we have, and they made like very bad mistakes against Milan, and Aslani wasn't playing, so it's kind of a vindication for Irfan here.
No, I was just gonna say, it's almost like, wow, every player can make a mistake here and there, and that does happen. We don't need to get all worked up about it. And in Hakan's case, it basically cost us a goal and set us back, because playing against Milan when they're up is really hard, because you're trying to attack and you're just exposing yourself more to the counter. But I think Zielinski overall played well as well. I agree. The one thing I'll give a lot of credit to Inzaghi for, I know Andrew mentioned that the triple substitution and then the other double substitution really changed the way we were attacking. And I think I give Inzaghi some credit for that, even though, again, he was kind of replacing the same players that don't usually make it 90 minutes and that had a yellow card. And he has no faith in bringing in the forward. So he kind of did what I think was probably the more obvious sort of move, rather than trying to bring on any of the forwards. But what I do give him extra credit for is the fact that, like, when he subbed those players on, they clearly had a mission. Like, they were industrious. They clearly had a very strict marching order, and they were executing that marching order. So in that regard, I think they came in with a plan, which is really nice to see. And I think Zielinski, his performance was indicative of that as well. Like, he came in with a plan, and other than a mistake or two, he executed that plan really well. And same with Zalewski, who I thought, again, showed a lot of maturity for his first match at Inter, being a derby match where we're down and desperately need a goal. I thought he played really well. He did do that same thing where what Buchanan loves to do, which is like dribble the ball out of bounds. But I think he only did that once, and otherwise he was very good. So props to both of them for coming in a difficult situation and playing well.
All right, let's just briefly touch on what's going on in the Mercato. We've already talked about Zalewski sufficiently, and he's the new wingback signing we were all clamoring for after Buchanan was shipped out. It doesn't seem like anything else is happening that's going to impact the squad for this season. I didn't even realize Radu is still in our books. Apparently we still own Radu. So he's off to Venezia because Stankovic got hurt and Venezia needs a new keeper. So I guess you can officially confirm Venezia are being relegated now. Then we are signing a Croatian midfielder, but he is being immediately loaned back to the team who owns him. How do you pronounce this guy's name, Mikko? Is it Susic? What is this?
Yeah, I think it's Susic. Petar Susic.
So I know nothing about this guy. I'm not going to pretend to have a scouting report. Mikko, do you have any advanced scouting knowledge of this guy?
Well, not much. There's some videos, but I haven't even watch them too much. But I think I understood that he's some kind of like a generic midfielder, not a regista, not a Mezzala. I don't know. Maybe he's more like a Mezzala, but let's see what's gonna happen with him. I think the deal is like was it 40 million and two bonuses on top. So not like not some cheap sub 10 million acquisition, but a little more, which I don't know. Maybe it's some kind of an indication what's to come in the summer. Hopefully that we can put a little more money on this.
This is an oak tree record transfer fee. Is that right?
It could be. Yeah. So
I use this site called FBref that does like player comparisons, and on the list of comparable players for Susic, I guess there are two Serie A players on here, but one of them is Pellegrini from Roma, which I don't. That's probably a little unfair, but maybe that's kind of the mold where you're looking for Mkhitaryan replacements more so than a regista here.
Yeah, probably he's maybe more offensive in a sense, but yeah, maybe we are going to see him in the Club World Cup after the season when we can get the players in advance to be part of the squad. So it's interesting to see what kind of guy he really is, and what is our plan with the guy. Are we going to like keep him, or are we going to loan him again in Serie A, or what's the deal?
I am disappointed by the lack of maybe creativity, I'll call it, in our approach to the attack. I would have liked us to try something, whether it be loaning Taremi somewhere for 6 months. It sounds like we were trying to unload Arnautovic to Fiorentina, and it just didn't get done. We all saw the viral video of us trying to unload Correa on Monza. I would have liked to see us do something there. We were talking about earlier this episode that just glaring black hole, and to completely not address the situation, it just, when you talk about a team who wants to be competing on multiple fronts, competing for a Champions League title, competing for a Scudetto, like this, if we fail to capitalize on goals, it's going to be because of this. Surely it's going to be because we don't have any depth off the bench. We weren't even really linked to anything that I could call serious. Like, we were not linked to a single forward all month. We had a few outgoing rumors, but no ingoing rumors, and it's disappointing. It sounds like we want this Castro guy. It sounds like this Castro guy might be the solution in the summer, and that is exciting. But in terms of the here and now, I would have liked us to at least try and, like I said, try and loan out Taremi for 6 months, bring in someone else on loan, just do something to revitalize the squad, because clearly he just doesn't have it. But it is what it is. We can't lament that too much. Can't really be surprised just given the financial conditions of the club. Let's talk about the kind of double Fiorentina fixtures we have coming up here. So on Thursday, we have the resumption of the suspended game against Fiorentina from when Bove had his cardiac arrest. This is a weird one. I've been nervous about this game really since it went on our calendar. I know Jay has mentioned this too, in that you don't have a full 90 minutes. You're resuming from the 16th minute. So the good thing is it's a 0-0 game. You're kind of starting fresh. But the bad thing is, like, hey, you have a less amount of time to break this opponent down. And Fiorentina have been in good form this season, and it is in Florence. So there's going to be a struggle here in terms of like what the lineups and all that. My understanding is we can roll out whatever starting 11 we want. The difference is we cannot use players who are not registered when the match took place. For us, that means Zalewski cannot participate in the match, so he's going to be unavailable off the bench. But I think other than that, you can start whoever you want, and we didn't make any substitutions, so we'll have all 5 subs available to us. For Fiorentina, I'm assuming they're going to be forced to use a sub on Bove. I'm not positive on that, so don't quote me there. Fiorentina do have a trio of new signings they've made who will be unavailable for this match because of the aforementioned rule. But for the most part, you just have this, like I said, this 75-minute match that you need to go out and you need to try to win. It's going to be weird. I can't remember the last time we've had to deal with something like this. And like I said, Fiorentina have been in great form this season. They were honestly in even better form when we first played them. They were just like winning every match. They've fallen off a little bit since then. So maybe we're fortunate in a twisted sense that this game is now rather than the initial scheduled dates. Irfan, how are you feeling about Fiorentina on Thursday before you have to play them again on Monday?
I'm a little nervous, but to be honest with you, I feel like we're in good shape. Hakan coming back is a big boost for us, and I think Thuram's still in really good form. Lautaro should be in pretty good form, so I feel okay. I think it will be a tough match, but overall, um, I'm more upset that we have to play them back to back, really, than the fact that we have to play them right now. Because, like you said, I think they were in better form when we were supposed to play them last time. So it'll be an interesting match. But I think I feel pretty good about it overall. I think we'll play well. I think we'll play our game, and I think they'll honestly let us play our game. So I'm a little bit less concerned overall. But I hate playing any team with such frequency because I don't know, you kind of get figured out, or you have to come up with something maybe a little different. Can't just do the same stuff over and over again. So that part concerns me a little bit, but I feel okay about the match in Florence.
Yeah, maybe the fact that we first played the kind of the shorter match, which is the away match, maybe that's better for us because the latter match is then at home, and I feel we're like a even more massive favorites in that match compared to this first one. So that's maybe the silver lining here regarding the schedule. But yeah, it's a new situation probably for Inzaghi as well. How he is going to plan this match? Like, what is the rotations? Who's going to start? The next match is in 4 days. So will he rotate like immediately or only with the subs and so on? It's only, was it 75 or 73 minutes? Like that's almost like an amount which most players can play anyway. Even DiMarco and Bastoni can play that if needed. But it's interesting to see that will they play? Will they even start? Are they going to get like saved for the so-called return leg, or what's going on? I haven't watched Fiorentina too much lately, so I don't know. I can't comment how they will play. Will they go like defense first, or what's the deal with them? I remember that at least Lautaro almost scored a goal back then when the game was called off. So he probably,
yeah, right before Dumfries had let the ball run out. To get to your point about the lineups, I'd imagine Dumfries is going to play the entire match. He's suspended for the following fixture on Monday against Fiorentina due to yellow card accumulation. So the only thing I'll bet is that Dumfries plays the whole match. But yeah, I mean, this Fiorentina team, I think if you're going to talk about it, you have to start with Moise Kean, who's just defying all expectations. This was the guy who scored 0 goals at Juventus last season, and now he's like third in the league in scoring. And it's definitely the story. I have a lot of respect.
You see his goal against Genoa?
I did not. Was it a nice one?
It was pretty.
It was crazy. It was like
pretty slick.
Do you guys see that? Like, it's like similar to the Ibrahimovic 500th career goal, where basically he kind of did some spinning karate kick and hit it with the outside of his foot as he was spinning and knocked it into the net. It was, you got to watch the replay, man. It was a fantastic goal. He's on fire.
Yeah, and there's a lot of dangerous players in this Fiorentina attack. Like Goodmanson is linked to forever. Yep. Kolpani is someone I'm a big fan of. They have one of the best midfielders in the world in Adli. So this is a good Fiorentina squad there. But like I said, their form has been dropping as of late, which may be a good time for us to play them.
Yeah, they seem to have a bit of a dip following, the Beauvais incident, which is fair, I guess. Naturally, they'd be expected by their teammate experiencing such a medical emergency, and not only would the other players be affected, but obviously Beauvais himself is unavailable. So there's the kind of double-edged sword in that regard. I think Fiorentina are a little bit past their initial lapse following the Beauvais incident, and they've recovered a bit. So expecting a really tough game, and I don't know. I'd almost expect a I'd almost prefer if the game was just a full 90 minutes, just because we'd have more time to try and find a win. Yes, obviously it'd be more physically demanding for us to play 90 minutes twice in 4 days than it is to play 76 minutes and 90 minutes in 4 days. But I don't know. I don't think that 15 minutes is going to make or break by the end of the season. I just think, on the pitch though, you'd prefer to have an extra 15 minutes. You know what I mean? So that for me is the biggest issue. But rotation is going to be something that Inzaghi's going to have to consider carefully here. If Hakan is fit or ready to play another hour, then maybe start him, or maybe even just better to start him from the bench this time and have him come off the bench. I thought Zielinski was fine against Milan, and whatever the last match we played before that was. I thought Asani was okay as well. It was the Champions League Monaco, wasn't it? I thought Asani was fine there. So both DM options had respectable recent performances, so I'd be fine with either of them starting, preferably Zielinski for me. But otherwise, let's see some degree of measured rotation. I think maybe start Carlos for this one. Maybe, this just kind of rings true what Andrew was saying about the forward situation. Like dropping either of the forwards is such a headache, because there's just no guarantees with Taremi and Arnautovic. At least Taremi kind of hustles off the ball, but it's such a unsatisfactory kind of alternative. It's like, your striker is shit, but at least he closes down opponents. At least he works hard off the ball. Like, it's the last thing I care about when thinking about a forward.
It's like when Italy played with Graziano Pelle, and it's like, well, he has great hold-up play.
Yeah, pretty much. Borriello has devastating good looks, but what else has he got?
Oh, all right. Well, let's do some predictions for this one. Mikko, what are you thinking for the continuation of the Fiorentina game?
Do we predict only the
Yeah, I think we're going to record on Sunday between Fiorentina fixtures.
All right. So let's see. We're gonna win this 2-0. We're gonna win this 2-0. We score in both halves. By the way, it's probably the first half is shorter here, I guess. I would guess. Yeah. We're gonna score there, and then we score another one in the second half, and it's done. So 2-0. Lautaro and Thuram are gonna keep those two there. Irfan.
I'm gonna go with just 1-0. I think we score one goal, but we comfortably kind of shut them down and win. So I'm gonna go 1-0, and I'm gonna give the goal to Darmian.
Man, I just told you Dumfries is playing all 75 minutes. You don't believe me?
No, I don't. I think it's Darmian will somehow be on the pitch. He might not be at right wing back, but he'll be on the pitch.
Jay.
Tough game to call, in my opinion. I think there'll be some signs of fatigue following the physical exertion of the derby, of course. I do think we'll squeak this one out. I'm also going to go 1-0, and I'll give it to Thuram or Lautaro.
I don't feel confident about this just because of the lack of time left in the match, but I can't be on an island here predicting us to drop points. So I'm going to follow the herd, good groupthink mentality, and give us a 2-1 win. Give me goals from Lautaro, who may or may not be back. And let's see. Well, let's give Frattesi a late goal off the bench. And then Fiorentina's goal will come from none other than Moise Kean.
What happened last time when we all predicted a win?
We drew Milan 1-1.
Yeah, exactly. What a jinx.
Jay, I need some hot betting tips, but before that, I need you to comment on Arsenal's 5-1 win over Manchester City yesterday.
Oh, man. I'm torn in that fixture, in that rivalry, because on one hand, I have nothing positive to say about Man City in their ill-gotten financial gains, and I hope them to be relegated at some stage if there's any justice in the footballing world, which we know there is not. The fact that we had to suffer for years and years bending over backwards to satisfy all of FIFA and UEFA's insane financial restrictions and regulations during the heyday of FFP before it was eventually kind of made redundant anyway, is, there's always some resentment over that, while clubs like Man City were actively creating corporate strategies to flaunt their disobedience and the negation of the restrictions of the rules. That's always a kick in the teeth, when you see someone getting away with cheating. And now there's all this. I mean, now it's famous, the 115 charges and all that kind of stuff. And you see those memes. It's like anytime something comes up, it's like, oh, instant 10-point deduction for Everton. Man City just seem impervious to any punishment immediately because of the length of the charges, and the way it's probably going to go is they'll probably get some slap on the wrist fine, and it's past the statute of limitations or whatever. So they'll probably be fine. So I've always disliked Man City for that reason, obviously, and they are, I guess, one of the best examples of this kind of plastic club with overblown with oil money. They're the prime example of that, and PSG, of course. On the other hand, I just fucking hate Arsenal, man. I just really fucking hate Arsenal. I'm sick of, I think their fans are some of the worst in the world in terms of conflating and overblowing whatever success or adulation that they have. I'm sick of hearing that fucking someone like Saliba is the best centre back in the world, and this kind of thing. I'm sick of seeing like Odegaard rated as a 100 million euro player and things like this. It's just mind-boggling, the amount of like your typical EPL fanboy delusion that is, that people complain about, is at its worst with Arsenal. Arteta is somehow the second highest paid manager in the world, and to their credit, there's a lot of Arsenal fans who don't fall for the hype, but I think by and large as a fan base there is something a little bit insufferable about how much Arsenal fans tend to overrate their own players. And so they remind, in that sense, they remind me very much of Milan for the past, maybe not in the last 2-3 years, but in that kind of the delusion of the fans from like the Young Hong Lee era until the Scudetto kind of period. There's some strong parallels there, I feel. So I've always said Arsenal are the Milan of Europe, of England. So due to that parallel, I don't like Arsenal. But to see them beat Man City 5-1 after, I mean, they've made Man City their bitch for the past few games. It seems like no matter what Man City do, they can't beat Arsenal anymore. It's like the student has finally surpassed the master, and Arteta has Pep's number conclusively. That's what it feels like. So a 5-1 victory is, impressive, gotta say, and can't say it wasn't deserved to an extent. And look, at the end of the day, I just hope Liverpool wins the league, because I wish nothing but the worst for both of these teams, unfortunately. Sorry to go on a long rant. The prediction, the hot betting tip is also in England, actually, and it's the Merseyside derby. It's Everton against Liverpool on Friday morning. I think it's the same time that we play Fiorentina, actually, and no, it's actually a day before. But I'm actually going for a draw, 1-1. Everton will take points off this Liverpool team and slow down their title charge just by a little bit. So that's the hot betting tip for the week.
All right, we'll wrap up there. Like we said, we'll be back to recap the abbreviated Fiorentina fixture. We'll catch you all then. Mikko, take us away.
Forza Inter, Forza Roma. See you.
See you.